In this week's Unabridged column, former National Party leader and Chief Executive of the Auckland Chamber of Commerce, Simon Bridges, tackles the thorny issue of China and how a recent visit by US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan has prompted the hawks and the doves on the issue. Simon, how do you solve a problem like China?
Well, I don't know that we will in the next 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, but there's no doubt it's always going to be important. It's hugely topical at the moment, as you say, off the back of the Nancy Pelosi visit. I see a further group of senators are actually there on their way at the moment, and Taiwan is, one of the big issues of our time. I suppose one of the points of the column is really, look, there's all of that. There's also some very significant economic problems. A lot of people will be aware of, the multiple lockdowns, also the potential for property crisis and the cascading effects of all of that. I talk about the effects on New Zealand's economy. Look, we'll still make food, the world will still want it, there's tight supply of that globally, but something like forestry is in trouble. And then I do come back to that issue you raise as well. What is sort of the geopolitics effect in New Zealand? And I think what is true is that in New Zealand, there has actually for a while, a small number of years, been kind of the hawks and the doves, those who are very worried about China, its aggressive stance on things, really play that up. And those who will say, no, let's just keep trading. These guys are maligned, and we just have to be mature about its rising place in the world. I've always kind of straddled a bit of both, probably more on the hawkish side. I think in the end, what I'm saying is actually Jacinda Ardern's done a really shrewd job on this. I think she's managed to play it both sides, if you like, and have America thinking she's on their side and China think that she's on their side. We do need to keep on trading, but we do have to think about diversification, which I appreciate people are. And we can't be naive. In fact, we can't be under any illusion about the potential of what's coming.
Yes, I did note that you said Jacinda Ardern had got it right for us. Is that praise for the Prime Minister?
Well, no politician gets everything right. But I do think on this, actually, if you take the balance of opinions that you'll see in the media amongst the political class, if you want to talk about it like that, she is playing a shrewd game, I think. There's been a recent China summit actually hosted by the Auckland Business Chamber that I'm now part of, and all the views are there. I think people with her contributions on these important issues can sort of see what they want to see.
Now, with the hawks and the doves, who's taking a hawkish position and who's taking a dovish?
Well, I suppose on the hawkish side, that is those who are again or certainly very vocally concerned. You'll find a group of national MPs. I think you'd find David Seymour and the ACT Party. Some in business, although not particularly loud, because of course businesses' role in a sense is to make a buck, and that so much does involve China for New Zealand. On the other side of the argument, look, I think there's no secret John Key's been prominent in a recent Q&A interview with Jack Tame. He's very clearly, in his comments on Pelosi, and as I say in the column, that's a proxy in a sense for where they stand on these things, takes a certain view. Fran O'Sullivan, another prominent commentator. And then I think, look, actually you also see it in the really big cooperatives in New Zealand quite strongly, traditionally at least, Fonterra, Zespri and the like. They take it, and can understand it, a pretty clear view on China given the balance of their exports that go in there.
Now, you did say that the Chinese growth slowing and house prices falling doesn't necessarily spell out doom and gloom for New Zealand. Can you expand on that a bit?
I do think, and there'll be, even on this, a bunch of views, some who are very gung-ho and continue to be on China, and others say, hang on, there's some real worries here. I think the balance is shifting to the worries. I think right now you'd say actually the Chinese economy does have a lot of problems. That doesn't mean it's going to collapse at any level. I do think stagnation is more the order of the day, or much lower growth, and we know those official figures on growth tend to be higher than perhaps the reality across the country. People will still need food though. They'll need our high quality produce, and so I think in the end for New Zealand, we don't need to sit there alarmed, but we should be cognizant of what's going on in the geopolitics, what's going on economically, and I think they are cases. I think most would agree, whatever side of the arguments there is a very strong case for really working out and trying to see how we can diversify, acknowledging that's not an easy thing.
Where would you think we most need to diversify to? Somewhere like India or elsewhere in Southeast Asia?
I've always been attracted to thinking about India and other so-called middle powers in the Asia Pacific. You think of the likes of Vietnam, of Indonesia, actually a massive country in comparison to New Zealand, even the Philippines, some of these countries. And then, of course, there's Europe that still has legs, America, where, yep, we've got an FTA, but even there, we could do more. And I'm not pretending, though, these things are kind of simple. You can click your fingers and say, you know what, given some of the concerns around this part of the world, we might move in here. And China's not going anywhere. It's 1 billion plus people. It has got an much more than emerging middle class now, including the very wealthy. So I'm not suggesting anything simplistic, but I am saying, you know what, yep, we will keep trading with China. We need to really be mature in how we think these things through, and under no illusions about the, I suppose, the emerging Cold War we're seeing between the likes of the US and China.
And what's your view on Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan? Should she have gone?
I think now, in my lucky and fortunate position of not being a politician, I wouldn't take a staunch view either way. You can certainly argue on Nancy Pelosi's behalf that she's someone who, as Senate leader, as an American, in the interests of freedom, etc., went there just to stake that claim, if you like. There's no doubt, though, factually, that it certainly has heightened and inflamed the tensions, obviously, the Chinese view of life, so that, there's been the military presence and so on. So it certainly means, and things weren't great, say, a couple of months ago, that from where we sit right now, things seem even more precarious.
So on the balance of it, you think she shouldn't have gone?
I wouldn't stake a strong view. I mean, where do you stand on something like the rights and the freedoms of people and countries and economies versus, taking a soft line on some of these things? See both perspectives, and out of the hurly-burly of politics, really that's one of the points the column is making, that Jacinda Ardern has got it right by treading carefully on those sort of things, and that's where New Zealand has to be, albeit we should be realistic.
Simon, thank you very much for your time.
Good talk to you.